everyone, this is a very exciting day. It's March 22nd, World Water Day. Yes, indeed, there is such a thing as World Water Day. Today, we celebrate the achievements of every single water engineer that solves our issues. And also, it's a very good moment to be aware of the value of water and also about, the challenges still in front of us, because we still have a lot of people on this planet that are suffering, and also the environment still is not in the best shape. So we have a lot of achievements, but we still have a lot of challenges. And at the MT we thought, okay, let's create maybe a very casual mini documentary on water to create the awareness, because water awareness is super important. If our policymakers, if the general public, if businesses, if investors are not aware about the water, the value of water, the challenge that we need to solve, we cannot solve them, it's very, very important. So this is a mini video, a mini documentary on the water challenges in my region. I'm in Belgium here where I live. I'm actually standing in front of my house, and I'm going to walk you through 5 types of water. With each type of water, I will do a little explanation on the system, on the technologies, on the history, but I will also describe you the challenges in front of us and the major changes in that area, okay? I don't think we have to wait any longer. I have my bike with me. Let's go! Alright, we have arrived at the first stop. This brings us to the first type of water, drinking water. I'm in a nature area over here, and you might say, yeah, it's beautiful, you see a lot of trees, but what does this have to do with drinking water? I'm going to explain you. So over there you can see a building. This is a drinking water production facility of the Water Group. The Water Group is the biggest drinking water company in Flanders. So what they are doing here is they are extracting groundwater and producing drinking water out of that. Groundwater is in fact a supreme source of drinking water, because the nature itself, the soil, works as one big filter. And in addition to that, groundwater is way less exposed to pollution. And that's why it needs way less sophisticated treatment. These buildings, these treatments are rather small. You just need a couple of steps and you have drinking water, compared to the other major source of drinking water, which is surface water. Surface water is water from rivers, from lakes, and it has more natural organic matter. You don't want yellow water, right? And it also has some more exposure to industry, to pollution. So you need more sophisticated treatment. In Belgium, Flanders, it's almost 50-50 approximately source of drinking water, groundwater. And then you might ask yourself the question, hey, why don't we produce 100% drinking water from groundwater? Of course, it has to do with availability, it has to do with water stress, and it also has to do increasingly with climate change. So we know water companies that were exclusively doing groundwater treatment that are now considering to shift, at least partially, to surface water. It's all feasible technologically, but it needs an adaptation, In addition to that, next to these shifts we see also a growing interest in water reuse. For example, in the United States, AM team is working on some of the largest water reuse projects in which they really convert used water or wastewater, let's call it used water, into drinking water. So these things are really emerging, and they will also emerge in Europe. Again, technologically everything is feasible, and again, drinking water companies are doing major efforts in making sure the water is safe and drinkable. Now, when you consume the water, and when you drink it, when you use it for other purposes, for example showering, it turns into wastewater. And this brings us to the second type of water. I'm standing in front of a wastewater treatment plant. So this brings us to the second type of water, grey water or wastewater. Grey water is actually the water from the sewers. So this means the shower water, the washing water, all of the wastewater, and partially the drinking water actually from the previous plant. Because this plant actually is the plant of Stekene. It's 2 kilometers from my home and actually a few kilometers from the drinking water treatment plant. And it's operated by Aquafin. So Aquafin is the Flemish wastewater treatment company. And Here's a nice history lesson on the Flemish wastewater treatment, or the Belgian wastewater treatments. This is a book from the Flemish Environmental Agency, VMM. They actually published this book upon their 20-year existence in 2011. And there's a nice history in here. For example, when you go into the book and look at it, you can see that there's a lot of foam here at the Belgian coast. So good to know is that the king was actually going on vacation at the coast. There were no wastewater treatment plants in Belgium, and he was asking for it because the water was getting really dirty. So this means in the 1940s, the first wastewater treatment plant in Belgium was a fact because the king needed it for the vacation. And of course, then it all took a couple of decades more. And when I was a kid in the early 90s, I still remember that many of these facilities were being built in the early 90s. So let me now take you through the basic steps of wastewater treatment. We start from sewage. This is the water collected from the sewage system at the houses and being brought to this central facility. Okay, in the first step, which is called primary treatment, the solids and the big dirt, let's say, are being removed, and then it goes to the second step, which is called the secondary treatment. That's what you can see here at the back. These big basins, these big concrete basins, are filled with bacteria, good bacteria that actually eat the waste out of the wastewater, the nitrogen, the carbon, the phosphorus. Okay, these bacteria are called activated sludge because they are activated with oxygen. Just like fish in an aquarium need oxygen, these bacteria need some oxygen in order to produce cleaned wastewater, okay, cleaned water. And then it goes to the third step, which is separating this activated sludge from the water again, because you don't want to let it go into the river. And then finally you have the discharge. They will put it into the surface water here. I already mentioned surface water, so it's important that we keep these rivers very clean. Now this brings us to the challenges and the emerging trends here in the industry. First, climate change. These facilities will need to cope with more dynamics, droughts, floods. So this means they were designed for certain flows. If the rain pattern changes, these plants will need to cope with it. So a lot of professionals are working on this. How do you cope with that? Second, we have new regulation. For example, in Europe, for the first time, these facilities will need to remove micropollutants, which means pharmaceuticals, which means pesticides, other emerging chemicals. And this requires a fourth step, which is called a tertiary treatment step. So this will happen in the coming decades in Europe at a lot of facilities. Now, this is central wastewater treatment, which means all of the wastewater of the surroundings is being brought to this central facility. Let's now take a look at how decentral wastewater treatment looks like. All right, welcome to my own decentralized wastewater treatment plant. I'm living in a remote area and I don't have a sewer connection, and I actually have to treat my own wastewater. And here you can see my own wastewater treatment plant with a capacity of 10 people. You know, we have a family of 6 people here in the house, and actually the system works exactly in the same manner as the big facility I have been showing. So I will give you a small tour, okay? Are you prepared for some dirty water? So this is the primary wastewater coming in. So this is the gray water. It's the water from the showers, from our lavatories, okay? Not the toilets, okay? I'm going to come back to it. This is the aeration zone. So here you see the bubbles. Remember the aquarium. Remember the aquarium I have actually been talking about. So it's exactly the same bacteria that are treating my wastewater. I think many professionals in my industry will agree with me. Do not underestimate these bacteria, they are amazing. And then finally we have the third stage where the sludge is being separated. There is some foam here, but I'm really surprised how clean that wastewater is. It's a very small treatment, it's very basic, but it really works really well. Now, this brings us to the third type of water I'm going to show, not going to show actually. is the black water. I talked about the gray water. That's the wastewater coming in with this big facility, in my facility. However, we have septic tanks. Septic tanks, they collect the black wastewater from the toilets. I am not going to open this basin. You don't want to see this. However, they are very effective as well. They are one biological ecosystem, and actually the effluent of it, so the treated black water, let's say the pre-treated wastewater, enters my decentralized wastewater treatment plant. All right, welcome at the fourth stop of our trip. What you see at the back is a pumping station for surface water. So this is the fourth type of water, surface water. You already heard about it, you know, they produce drinking water out of that. It needs to have a very good quality, but this is about quantity, because there is some history here. You see that very old propeller blade there, that is from the original pumping station. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of history here. This is literally 1 kilometer from my home, and what you can see here is floodings. Floodings in the 1920s in this area. We had a lot of them, especially also the Netherlands, you know, because they are very well known for dewatering. They are the real experts. But this building has been built in the 1930s because they started a huge dewatering of this whole area here. And back then, this pump here inside this little building was the biggest pump of Belgium at that time. So I'm quite proud of that. I had the biggest pump of Belgium in my street. So that pumping station is dewatering this whole area here, yeah, the surroundings of it, and it's actually putting that water in exactly the same river you have seen before with the wastewater treatment plant, because actually 1 kilometer upstream, that wastewater treatment plant is discharging into that river. Okay, so here we have a quantity management system, and there we have a quality management system. In fact, this river, when you look at it, you would say, okay, it's a nice river, it's a lot of water, but actually most of this water is effluent. It is treated wastewater. You don't see it, but it is like that. This is an effluent-dominated river, how we call it, and we have many like these in Europe. And this brings us to the challenges, because with climate change, we will not only have more water quality management systems like these, you know, we will have to manage floods more than before. But still today, many of our rivers in Belgium and also Netherlands are struggling with meeting the requirements of the European Water Framework Directive. Why is that? Because we are treating the wastewater, but still we are densely populated, we have a lot of industry, and we are living downstream of a lot of other industrialized countries. So this brings specific challenges. Many water professionals in our industry are really working on getting these rivers cleaner and cleaner, and they have to do so because the regulation is only getting more stringent. So I'm very positive, in fact, for the future, because we have the technology, we have a lot of solutions, but we also need water awareness. All right, are you ready for the fifth and last type of water? It is rainwater. Of course, rainwater. I haven't been talking about that. So here we are in my garden again, and this is a rainwater reservoir. This is one reservoir of 10 cubic meters, so 10,000 liters of water, and I have another one next to it. So in total, I have a capacity of 20,000 liters of rainwater. They gradually built up in Belgium, so it's really a mandatory requirement. If you do a renovation works or you build a new house, you really need to store your wastewater. Your drinking water. Why is this important? Because of climate change, for example, we have more prolonged droughts. And it's a pity if you flush your toilet, for example, with very high quality drinking water. I have shown you how drinking water gets produced, how high quality groundwater is, for example, and that's a pity if we flush our toilets with it. So in Belgium, we do that, and now I have 20 cubic meters, that's a lot, but again, if it's really a dry summer and we have them more often, they are empty. They are really empty. Yeah, you know. And what I find interesting is that in terms of technology, in terms of water management, in terms of water treatment, us Belgians, we look up to the Netherlands very often. However, if there's one aspect where the Netherlands looks up to Belgium or to Flanders, it is rainwater storage, because in the Netherlands this is not at all common practice, storing rainwater. Now, this brings us to the challenges of rainwater and water management at these levels. Due to climate change, we have longer droughts. We will need to store more rainwater. We will need increased capacities. But in addition to that, we also need to have more infiltration happening when it rains a lot, because we will have floods more often as well. And again, we are very densely populated. Belgium has a lot of concrete. Water cannot infiltrate. This means we have a major regulation around that as well. If you build new homes or etc., you really need to infiltrate. All right, we have come to the end of this documentary. This was a low budget, very casual mini documentary on a local water system. And my hope is that you enjoyed it, that you learned a couple of new things, and that you have become a little bit more water aware. The importance of water is only going to grow in the future. It's good for our business, but it's also, I think, good for society that we are taking more and more measures, but we still need to take a lot more. And with this, I really want to stimulate the general public, the politicians to be more water aware, but also water professionals to be talking about water way more, because that's really an impact we can have. By the way, right now I'm enjoying a bottle of fresh tap water from my favorite bottle, from my favorite music water event, Jammin' for Water. People know me there for my Elvis performances. I'm not going to do one now, but yeah. I wish you a very good World Water Day.